In the summer of 2016, Spanaway Elementary School, a building that had stood since 1968, was demolished to make way for a future school. Although its hallways held a lot of history, this building wasn't the first Spanaway Elementary School on that site, and it certainly wasn't the first Spanaway Elementary School in Spanaway. But the story of Spanaway Elementary is the story of its community, and it's one that stretches back to the beginnings of the Hudson Bay Company in this area in the early 1800s.
One of the things that a lot of people weren't aware of is that we had the agricultural stations from Hudson Bay Company out here. We had one out by Cougar Mountain, and we had one out by Spanaway Elementary. And they were where the people for Fort Nisqually grew all the vegetables and raised a lot of the cattle and different livestock and things for them for their consumption and for them sending out and selling at their stores. And you can see over by Cougar Mountain and up from Cougar Mountain, Centennial, I think, you can see the indentions in the big fields out there, and that's where the buildings used to be.
Then as time went on and more people moved in and the fur trade was declining, and then they went more to the farming and they did quite well with that. By 1853, you had the Longmar Biles Party came over Natchez Pass, and my relatives were in that.
Those were Shirley's great-great-grandparents, and they took up claims in the Steilacoom area. That is, until the Indian War of 1855.
After the Indian War, and they made up the reservations, the government purchased, like they do, the land in Puyallup, and so great-grandfather moved out here to Spanaway.
With the population growing, the first Spanaway School was built around 1869, and it was located on the southwest shore of Spanaway Lake. The next Spanaway School opened its doors in 1891.
It was what we called a four-square hip roof, and 2 stories. And it was built somewhere around 166th between A and B streets.
That first year, there were 126 students enrolled.
I helped do some transcribing of the 1892 census, and I noticed that there was a great influx of German folk and Scandinavians, and they were buying up these small farms.
My family came over from Germany when my grandpa was only 1 year old in 1882.
This entire area was just filled with farms, just dotted everywhere.
I just was lucky enough to find some old negatives that had been my grandma and grandpa's, and it shows them with their horse teams, and we have pictures when they were they had used one of my grandpa's teams to work on 224th Road when they were just cutting it through.
In 1928, the second Spanaway School was demolished, and its students moved to the newly built Brick School, located on 166th and Pacific Avenue. Even with its growing population, the Spanaway area remained rural. But farming wasn't the only way to make a living, especially with back-to-back world wars impacting the local workforce.
My dad worked at Boeing part of the time during wartime.
Father passed away in May of 1940. He died of nitroglycerin poisoning. He had been working at Columbia Powder Plant. In fact, quite a few people in the area worked at that Columbia Powder Plant. And then when the shipyards opened up, quite a few of them moved to jobs at the shipyards.
As the community grew, the school needed to grow along with it. And in 1941, they added a new wooden building to the existing brick school.
We moved out here in 1944, and for some reason we ended up in Spanaway.
You've lived here since you were...
I've lived here, and I lived in that house over there since 1946. You can add it up.
My mother was born in Spanaway. My father was born in Benson, Minnesota.
My mother was a native of England, and my dad was a native of Brooklyn.
And they wanted out of the town, really.
And they wanted away from the cities.
That idea of moving your family to a rural setting was a popular one.
You know, it's just a great place to grow up.
My parents' yard was fenced, and all the dogs that came by, I would open the gate and coax them in and play with them. And so I think they eventually decided I better get a dog. So
In the 40s, a lot of the kids, to make money, we would sell seeds or something, you know, going from house to house.
We crawled through the Scotch broom. We made camps in under the trees.
At one time, there was a livery stable, a creamery,
Bargain Basket, there was Little Park,
about 2 or 3 grocery stores,
there was Anderson's gas station,
of course, a couple of taverns,
there was Stansby's 5 and 10 cent store.
Herman's store, the old post office at 161st.
and a couple of hotels.
Used to sneak into the old blacksmith shop behind those areas as a kid just to see what was in there and all the old tools. And we weren't supposed to be in there, but it was fun.
At one time, there was a Cooper's establishment making barrels and things, oaken buckets and things like that. Slaughterhouse, and then a little meat market, which had other groceries too, but not a lot.
If you bought cheese, it was on a wheel and they cut the wheel.
You'd go in that place, and I always remember he had that big jar of pickles, and deep, and you could buy a pickle for 5 cents, and it was a treat. That's what you look forward to.
While a pickle for a nickel was a treat for some, others had a sweeter tooth.
I can remember when they first started making any kind of cakes that were in packages. They were so dry, but it was a big thing, you know. And like they say, when, you know, sliced bread, yeah, that was a big thing too.
Everything I needed was here. I didn't have, once in a while I'd go to Lakewood or Tacoma to get something, but there were doctors and there were dentists and, you know, things that you need right here in this community. I didn't have to travel outside of it.
But sometimes a trip to the big city was in order, and the residents of Spanaway loved a trip to Tacoma.
That was a big day you went into Tacoma. Of course, you had to leave early in the morning and you had to get back in time to milk the cows.
Dad would go down there to get parts. He was a mechanic, to get parts. You would go down there to get your shoes fixed. You would go down there to get your cleaning done.
And then behind one of the big department stores, Rhodes to be exact, there was a creamery. And they had the best ice cream. And that was the treat for the day, was going to this creamery and getting a dish of ice cream. Oh, you behaved yourself because you knew that if you didn't, there might not be any.
There were like 3 movie theaters. Kids would almost always go to a matinee. My favorite was Roy Rogers movies or Gene Autry.
once in a great while, my mother went to town into Tacoma, and we rode the streetcar, and it was fun because it swayed back and forth, and it just made funny noises.
And that streetcar went both ways. So while the residents of Spanaway enjoyed visiting Tacoma, the opposite was also true.
People who lived in Tacoma started building summer cottages around the lake.
And in one of the Better Homes and Gardens Christmas issues, it was in the 30s, early 30s, late 20s, one of the best gifts you could give was a lake lot on Spanaway Lake. And I just always thought that was so unique to have them advertise our little lake in a national publication.
Spanaway Lake area was like a resort area for Tacoma.
Yeah, that was kind of what we called the playground for Tacoma.
And people used to come, they used to ride Old Betsy from Tacoma, and we had 2 big hotels on Spanaway Lake, and we had a dance hall, and we had arcades, and we had a dirigible landed here. There's so many things that happened out here in Spanaway that people just have no idea.
They used to hold their political rallies from Tacoma and things like that. I remember going to one as a kid, and I remember them having this boxing ring set up, and and anyone could come in and box with a gentleman that was there. I can't remember who it was, whether it was Freddie Steele or not.
Introducing the pride of the Northwest, Freddie Steele!
That was my first experience of seeing a boxing match, and I never wanted to see another one again. I did not like it.
Whether they lived in Tacoma or they were locals, Spanaway Lake was a place where the community came together.
Whenever we could get away from the ranch, we went to the lake.
We'd spend all day at the lake in the summertime.
That was one of my fond memories. When I was older and allowed to run off and play with the kids, we would go to the lake and catch crawdads. And somebody found an old tin can. We put lake water in it, boiled the crawdads, and ate them. We're still here, so I guess it was all right.
Well, I know we used to have a lot of fun swimming at the park.
I learned to swim there, yes. Yes. They had lessons there.
But life in Spanaway wasn't all fun and games at the lake. Parents still had to work, and kids still had to go to school. In 1949, all of the smaller, local school districts consolidated into the Bethel School District, and a new high school was built.
We bought a house out by Bethel High School, and we were in the first subdivision out there. And so it was totally just farmhouses and cows and just fields.
Well, they called Bethel Cowpie High, you know. It was just, we were out in the boondocks, you know, so.
And one of the schools that fed into that new high school was Spanaway Elementary.
I went through kindergarten through 8th grade at Spanaway.
It was a big old brick building.
Well, I worked in that building for Bill McDonald.
Yeah.
I worked on the boiler.
I walked to school. I was within walking distance of Spanaway Elementary School. In fact, I was able to come home for lunch most days. And I always preferred peanut butter. Dad had the meat market. Mother would say, "Would you like to have a bologna sandwich?" No, peanut butter, just peanut butter.
I remember the cook, one cook especially, Mrs. Olin. My mother always told her that I didn't like chili. So she and another teacher didn't either. So on Tuesdays, which was chili day, we got Mondays, which was noodle soup day. And it was Lipton's noodle soup, best noodles around.
I used to be a monitor, what do you call it, a bus monitor. I'd ride on the bus with the bus driver when the little kids would get out of school. Mr. Miller was a driver. And there was always a patrol girl, somebody on the bus with the kids to get out and put the flag out for them to cross, and kind of kept the kids quieter. Now they have cameras.
In the 30 years since the Spanaway School had moved to Pacific Avenue, new buildings were added, and eventually it came time for the old buildings to come down. When the 1928 brick school was demolished, the district gave away the building materials to the community.
Well, I had a sign out there, free bricks. They were trying to get rid of them, and they were trying to save some money, helping the school district. I'm a believer of not wasting anything. Waste not, want not.
But the idea when you went to get the brick, wasn't it to build the fireplace, though?
Yeah, to build a,
Yeah.
that was the idea.
Yeah, that's
And then,
what you were
so
gonna
I went
do.
ahead, we had this patio, so I went ahead and did it, built it.
That's when they knocked down the old schools. That was, well, when he went and got the brick.
What year was that?
Uh,
57, 58, 60. Oh, we built the house 61. Oh,
No,
it'd be
it was
later than
later.
that.
Well, Joe-
65.
no, because Doug was with you when you got the brick, and Doug is 55. So that would be, I hope you edit some of this.
Those old buildings had stood for almost 50 years, and even withstood an earthquake along the way. And 50 years later, another earthquake struck. Though separated by half a century, both events created very similar memories.
One of my favorite memories was when we had the earthquake.
I remember standing on the playground,
And we had practiced our earthquake drill.
and I had to sit down on the ground because it was shaking so badly.
We all went under the tables, and then a couple of them had to go where the computers were, and I'm like, no, get out of there.
Always remember that. It's never gone away.
My favorite thing was when one of the kids said, "Is this a practice?"
No matter the school's location, the community has always come together at Spanaway Elementary.
That community has always been connected to the building. Many of our students' parents and grandparents have come through Spanaway, and so it was just this generation of community. Many of the staff members that are still at Spanaway were there before I even started, and so the community felt a connection to them as well.
It seemed like the teachers came and they stayed.
It was home, away from home for us.
But the thing about home is, it's where you hang your hat. It's not the building itself, which is good because Spanaway Elementary was beginning to show its age.
Now that old building was well built, but it was old.
When the kids would line up to leave the library, they would all stand on the floor and squeak, and squeak, and squeak, and squeak.
The infrastructure was so old that it had asbestos in it, did not have the power for what we're using today for computerized systems. The plumbing was wore out. It just was to the point where it was cheaper to remove the school than it would be to keep it.
With all the kids that have been going to that school since my kids were going there, I think it just wore it out. The rugs and the carpet and everything, like Donna was saying, it just got worn out, and it does. I can tell just in my own house, you know, the traffic coming in and out.
A new Spanaway Elementary School was built next door to the old building, and the students and staff said goodbye to their old school. But the old building still had a few lessons left to teach. In 2016, the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, Washington State Patrol, and Central Pierce Fire and Rescue all conducted training operations at the old Spanaway Elementary building. A school setting like this isn't always available for first responders to train in, so it was a rare opportunity for a very specialized type of training.
Police search warrant, open the door! Police search warrant, open the door! Search warrant, open the door! Police search warrant, step away from the door! Police search warrant, get on the ground! Police search warrant, get on the ground! Police search warrant, get on the ground!
We truly appreciate the opportunity to come out. It does give us a pretty good feel for the size and what it's going to take for the team, tool-wise and tactic-wise, to work our way through a school.
Once the training was done, the demolition on the old building began. And like they did before, the district put up the free brick sign again, to let the community take a part of the school home. Although the bricks were a little different this time around. Unlike the bricks from the 1920s, these modern bricks were more for souvenir purposes.
The original school had different bricks. They used to make them a different way back in the 20s.
He was talking about how long things last and how they wear out in this
Well,
school.
clinker bricks last, like 4,000 years. They don't wear out.
The consistency of different materials was totally different than the way we can mass produce bricks today.
But that didn't stop scores of Spanaway Elementary alumni from picking up a souvenir.
Yeah, I really wanted a brick from the kindergarten wing because that's where I spent most of my time.
I came to get a brick today so I can remember the amazing building and the amazing people, and I'm currently getting all my old teachers to sign it. And I didn't realize how many people would be here for me to sign it with them.
There's some mixed emotions about that because to see that place that was my first job, was my home, and really helped to grow me to where I am today, I don't know, it's like that first home you have raising your family. It's, you're excited to move on and see the new things that are to come, but there's a lot of memories that are there.
It was really sad to see it all come down. And I'm still sad when I drive by, so.
That's progress. It just means I'm getting older.
Today, the Spanaway area is very different from its rural roots. And as the community continues to grow, more changes are inevitable. What do you think Spanaway is known for now?
Our traffic.
You can't say
really.
what Spanaway was known for.
What it's known for now? I don't know what it's known for now.
Now everybody complains that all they hear about is trouble in the Spanaway area. It's not any different than anywhere else. It's just that we're
trouble.
a big area.
Places that I called Spanaway, they don't call Spanaway anymore.
I used to live in Parkland, and when us kids were little, Mom would take us to the movie theater, and we would dance and play across Pacific Avenue. There was no cars coming, we just fiddled. Now I won't even enter it unless I go to a light. It has changed so much.
The changes in Spanaway? Oh, heavens.
Places where we used to run around and take an old jalopy out and run it all over the prairie and that kind of thing. You can't do that anymore.
I mean, there was no fast food places, there was nothing. It was just all peace and quiet. Now I wake up in the morning, I hear the Loop Road traffic and Pacific Avenue and the sirens, and everything's changed.
I have met so many people that have come from so far, and we've all had a home here.
I've been away from Spanaway when I drove truck, and I just wanted to come back. This is my area. I hated Arizona. I don't envy anybody that goes to Arizona. It is not a place for a Northwesterner.
That's what I like about Spanaway. It's given us that home. Our roots are here, even though we're the newbies.
To me, it's just a nice place to live. We have recreation areas close by and schools.
Well, we still help pay for taxes for the school kids going to school, even though we're retired, because we know everybody did for our kids.
Spanaway has been here longer than I realized when I was a kid.
And another change in the community is that the old Spanaway Elementary building is now gone. The land it sat on is slated to be used for a future school, whose hallways will have their own stories to tell. It's stories like those that add up to make Spanaway the place so many call home.
I don't know what year it would be.
It's 65.
No, Doug was born in 61.
Okay, 67.
I haven't thought of you in so long. Memories will always fade. I used to think about you daily. I wonder if you did the same.
My complaint too is Bethel High School. I went there. It still looks the same as it does when I went there.
That'll be coming down there.
Crappy.
I haven't thought of you in so long. Memories will always fade. I used to think about you daily. I wonder if you did the same.